Malaysia's Digital Economy Vision 2030. YB.
Video record, huh?
Thank you very much, Saudari MC. Let me just adjust this mic first. All right. Adjunct Professor Alex Liu, Chairman PIKOM, thank you for the excellent speech earlier. Mr. Alex Low, Deputy Chairman, PIKOM, Billy Yong, Organizing Chair, PIKOM Lead, likewise, very inspiring remarks earlier. So on Ong Chin Siong, Immediate Past Chairman, PIKOM, Anthony Raja Devados, Secretary, PIKOM, Technologies Abdul Halim, Muhammad Asim, Treasurer, PIKOM, Dr. Yan Vijin, Chairman, Silco Group, Mr. Roy Hu, Director, International Business Development, GCC International, distinguished guests, industry partners, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. Salam Padawan, Salam Malaysia Madani, and a very good morning to each and every one of you. First and foremost, thank you very much for inviting me here today to join you in this most important event. I think the topic under discussion, which essentially revolves around digital transformation, is something that's captured our imagination in the last 24 months or so. And at the top of our minds is, what does this actually really mean? Now, ladies and gentlemen, yesterday I was in Parliament, and of course, part of the debate, we have a committee stage. In committee stage, members are allowed to look at details of the budget, and they are allowed to question you in respect of certain specific areas. It was an interesting debate, and I think in all of it, the theme across the discussion was where has the Ministry of Digital come after 24 months? And I think this is an important topic, simply because it underscores the importance of the subject, but from a very, very different perspective. It is to be looked at from a readiness perspective. Industry is pushing ahead. There are lots of you in this room who have sat with me in the last 24 months, spoken to me in great detail. And I can say this, there's great talent around us, in this room, beyond. And we know what needs to be done. And industry is ready. As far as they are concerned, they can see how digital transformation is impacting the world. Industry understands that we don't have a choice. We really have to start thinking of how we too can change, so that we are able to participate in this journey of digital transformation we see globally. Because the reverse of it would be for us to be left behind. So there is no choice in the matter. It's really a question of how do we forge ahead? How do we see ourselves in the next 60 months? What our vision is? The agenda of government in support of that of the industry, the academia, society. These are things that we need to think about. Now, ladies and gentlemen, when we speak about digital transformation, we have to ask ourselves what that really means. And I think perhaps the starting point is to understand technology. Transformation means that we have to keep up with what technology provides us, how it changes the ecosystem around us, how it provides us with new opportunities, and of course, at the same time, challenges. Now, where do we see ourselves in the next 60 months? We see ourselves as a smart nation. We've been speaking about it for the last 10 years. We understand that. We know that there are tools currently that are available to us that can change the way we do things substantially. Not just in the way we work, in the way we live, in the way we deal with government, in the way we think. But as we move along, technology is changing. And this is the reason why, when the Prime Minister tabled RMK 13, we emphasized the need for us to take things further, to accept and acknowledge that the future presents us with greater challenges and the conversation must change.
we must be daring enough to accept that in the next 60 months, we are going to see a different world. One that is more complex than just a smart nation. And this is the reason why the Prime Minister spoke about AI Nation 2030. We are now moving to 2026. 2030 is some 60 months away. Not a very long way to go. But the Prime Minister, bold enough to say that Malaysia should think about how it can convert itself into a country, a nation that is everything AI. You and I understand that. We know that we need to move in that direction. And we need to accept the reality that conversations must not continue as they were before, but conversations must change. Why do I say this? You come back to asking yourselves what that means to industry. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if we are to understand what new technology does, we are excited by it. We expect to use it to empower us to become not just leaders here in Malaysia, regionally, even globally. We must first ask ourselves whether or not we have infrastructure that will enable us to change, to pivot from where we are today to what the world expects of us in 60 months. This is where the ministry comes in. And I can tell you this, when we debated this in Parliament yesterday, many MPs recognized the depth of the problem. The conversations that we have are well and good. But do we have the infrastructure in place in this country that will enable us to see these discussions through? The answer is that there is still a lot that needs to be done. We need to understand the impact of data, compute power, and technology on top of that to give us AI solutions. If you don't have a thinking around data, if you don't have a thinking around compute, if you don't have a thinking around what new solutions technology provides us, then of course the conversation becomes negative. In the sense that we will keep speaking about it, but we are not able to do anything about it because we can't. We don't have the infrastructure that enables us to get things done. This is why in the last 24 months I have focused a lot on building infrastructure. We now have connectivity that is reasonably good, 97% as far as 4G coverage is concerned. 5G, we are looking at almost 84% COPA in the last 4 years. But we need to start moving ahead. With connectivity, there is a need for us to look at data. How do you actually make sure that you have data that is digitized? Government has data, lots of it. But over the last 60 years, this data is still analog, it's still visual, it's still audio, or a combination of all three. Do we have a policy in place where we say to government agencies and ministries that you need to audit your systems? Tell us what kind of data you have, and at the end of the day, tell us how much of it is digitized. Those policies don't exist. We have to craft them, we have to start, which is what my ministry has done. Then you have the whole process of how do you digitize data? Layers of security, looking at personal data, protection, some data requiring more attention than others. There's a whole thinking involved in this process. That can't be done by ministry, can't be done by industry alone. You need to have a group of experts sitting in the room, understanding what it means, understanding how technology is going to evolve in the next 60 months, so that the data that we create today, we digitize today, is data that we can use in the next 60 months. Otherwise, you're going to have a scenario whereby you get things done today, only to find that tomorrow, what you did was outdated. We need to build a commission that focuses on this, that understands the challenges, is daring enough to tell government that what we currently have is insufficient. And if we are really minded to achieve AI Nation 2030, then you need to start looking at more resources, more expertise, talent, and how you develop an ecosystem which will then ultimately provide opportunities to industry, so that we can say proudly that we are a nation that has an ecosystem that is AI ready. And that is what AI Nation means. But there is a lot of work that needs to be done. We in the ministry are doing our best. It takes time. Things don't unfold overnight. We're in the process of creating the Data Commission. We hope that that is something that we will see in the next 24 months. We've already got the Data Committee. I put in legislation, the Data Sharing Bill. It was passed and enforced on the 28th of April this year. It sets up the mechanism, the procedure. And this is where we realize the depth of the problem. It's only when you actually have before you the mechanism which you want to now put into practice that you realize there's still so much more that needs to be done. Now, ladies and gentlemen, insofar as government is concerned, I think we are very clear. We want to create a system that enables you to succeed. One that is secure. We focus on cybersecurity. The Cybersecurity Act is a clear example of it. The first order of day when I became a minister was to make sure that we put that bill through. Make sure the NCIIs conform to basic standards required insofar as cybersecurity is concerned. Let's start looking at licensing. Who are proper cybersecurity experts? What needs to be done so that your systems are secure? And your systems need to be secure if there is to be trust. You can have the best infrastructure, I keep saying. I told Alex many times. We can talk about it. But if people don't trust the infrastructure that you have, people are not inspired by what you do, then people are not going to come on board. They're still going to be skeptical. They're going to say it's new technology. It can work both ways. It can empower us, but at the same time, it can put us at risk. So we need to think, how do we get this done? Now, ladies and gentlemen, the reason I say this to you at the outset of my speech is because I want you to understand that when we as government speak to you, we look at things from a slightly different perspective. We understand what you need to succeed. But we look at it from a governance perspective. How do we create those building blocks that you can operate on in order to succeed? Now here's the catch. Even if we did build an ecosystem, and I am committed to get it done, I need you then to come on board. I need you to tell me then what you think new AI businesses look like. In other words, each and every one of you here today must look at your organization, the business that you have created in the last 20, 30 years, and ask yourself how you can convert it into an AI business. In other words, everything AI, from the moment go. You get to your office, even before you get to your office, it's already AI. What does that mean? How do you operate a business that is going to be wholly dependent on AI? Because the challenge is this, your competitor next to you is already looking at it. And if they are able to succeed, they are going to look at optimizing their resources in a way that benefits them, that you can't catch up with. So we need to start accepting and acknowledging. Government will create the ecosystem. I give you my commitment, my ministry, and we will. And you can see the Prime Minister tabling RMK 13, speaking very, very boldly about AI Nation. It shows you that we are committed. Now, assuming we are able to do that, question is, how does industry change? Conversations? Yes, conversations are good. Conversations are the start. But quite apart from that, we need to ask ourselves, what are the challenges? And if I may suggest, one of the ways to do this is to identify gaps that currently exist in our businesses. What does that mean? I'll give you a simple example. Assuming for a moment you had data that was available to you, which you could use with technology to create solutions that are going to benefit your business. These are the conversations that we have. But you may need someone in your organization to talk to you about data. The kind of data set that you need for your business. Where to look for new data that's going to help you expand as you go along. How do you get access to that? You need to start looking at people who can analyze that data in a way that benefits your business so that you know exactly what you need to do, areas that you need to focus on, earlier areas that were wasteful, which you need to avoid. You see, we will have conversations, but the reality is you need real people and talent to get that done. You also need to start thinking of compute power. If you had the data analyst in your office, what tools do you need to make sure that you can use AI in order to strengthen your business? You may need people who are experts in that area to speak to you, to tell you what needs to be done so that you get it right. Ultimately, it really comes back down to whether you are ready to change. We must understand that there are gaps. These are gaps that are created by new technology. Technology will move in a direction which creates spaces which we need to identify, acknowledge, and fill up with new generation talent. This is the reason why I support initiatives by PIKOM. I've been with them, not just in this session, even in 2018, because they have real conversations with me. Apart from meeting at events like this, we meet up and we talk. How do we do this? One conversation that came across that day, which was to me correct, is this: government will speak to you about transformation, but is government prepared now to open up government work to the industry as well? All of you speak about it. And I think we need to start looking at that. Soon we will introduce the Government Innovation Initiative through MDEC. It's an initiative which starts looking at things in a different way. I anticipate a country in which ministries, government agencies put up problem statements that are open to the industry. Then we invite the industry to give us suggestions as to what they think needs to be done to solve those problems. This is where innovation comes in. So we provide that opportunity, and ultimately the best suggestion wins. This is how we are going to inspire confidence in the industry. This whole concept of PPPs, we need to start walking the talk. We need to start doing it. We can talk to you about digital transformation, but if government is going to carry on in its own way, then I think that doesn't inspire the kind of leadership and confidence that industry needs to succeed. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have a Prime Minister who understands this. A Prime Minister who's been speaking about this for years. This is the opportunity. Now is the time. Moving ahead to 2026, let us think about AI Nation in a way that impacts on us individually. You as industry need to start thinking, how do you change? How do you become an AI business? How do we empower ourselves moving ahead in the next 60 months? How do you expect government to assist so that you can succeed? This is the reason why we are here this morning. This is the reason why you have conversations of this nature. And my ministry and I, we are prepared to listen. After today's event, I will speak to Alex. Please give me your suggestions. Tell me how we as government too can change so that we do things right that ultimately benefits us all, government, industry, and everyone else in Malaysia. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if we can start on that footing, if we can all acknowledge today that we are here at a pivotal time, which requires us to show that leadership, ask ourselves, Alex said in his speech just now, challenge assumptions. Well, let us start by saying to ourselves that maybe we need to change. And I think if we do that, and we are brave enough to accept and acknowledge that there's work to be done so that we will ultimately get there, let me just say this. I'm sure that if we all put our minds together, we will succeed. And ladies and gentlemen, on that note, I wish all of you a very great event, discussion ahead today. And thank you very much for inviting me, and let us all work together and succeed together moving ahead. Terima kasih.
Thank you, YB Minister. Please remain on stage. I'd like to invite you to the middle of the stage, and at this point also, I'd like to invite the Chairman, Professor Alex Lee, together with the Deputy Chairman Alex Low, and Ms. Min Young to join YB Minister for the launch ceremony. So YB Minister and Chairman in the middle of the Mitra, Deputy Chair Alex Low, and me on the side. So what I'll be doing is requesting that everyone push forward, not backward, push forward on my 5. So 3, 2, 1. Collaborations and announcements. And if you got enough photos, I'd like to invite Ms. Millie and also the Deputy Chairman to return to your seats for the next segment. And also, what we'll be doing is we get help to clear out the stage for this next segment. So we've got a couple of partner recognitions, MOU exchanges, and launch.